Thank you for joining us on Worldwide Bald Man Slot Car Chat number 114. Yes, I cut my hair because it's summertime and I don't like hot heads. It served me well last night at Alan's scale racing because he doesn't have air conditioning and I could feel the heat coming off my head. So glad to not have any hair there. So, everybody out there, go ahead and get your fat bald man jokes out of the way.
No fat man, bald man jokes. I think it looks great.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, well,
I'm in good company.
yeah.
Looks normal to me.
Yeah, what's the difference?
Look at all these guys who were separated at birth. Wow.
Right? Mine is by choice, though. So
brothers from different mothers.
Anyway, so now let's get started with some show and tell. If you have anything slot car related that you want to show and or tell, please raise your virtual hand to make sure that we do not miss you. And if you don't know how to raise your virtual hand, you can wave your real hands and I'll try to notice that, and John will help me notice that, and we'll do show and tell. Jim wants to do a show and tell. Fantastic, because nobody else has raised a virtual hand. So you go ahead and unmute yourself and talk and show and tell. Can I help you out with an ask to unmute? No, still muted. There we go. All right.
Got it, huh?
Yep, good to go.
All right. Well, actually, before I get started with show and tell, I had a quick question, which might have been covered before, as I haven't seen all of these. On the SCP slotted controllers, I have some of all of them, but on the SCP-3, when used wireless analog, I don't find that the brake control does anything.
Okay, so you're using
found
it.
That? Am I missing something? Is there an update or something?
So you're using it to a common radio interface. So the CRI is at your track with an analog cartridge in it.
Yes.
There have been some discussions on the amount of braking that's applied when it's used wirelessly. But every time I go out and test it, I don't have any issues. I guess my question is, what kind of cars are you driving? Is it pretty much every car? And if so,
yeah, I run a little of everything. So at my commercial track, running Flexies with 16Ds, vintage cars, Falcons, Skelectric, doesn't matter. I got zero brakes. And I thought maybe I don't have the latest software. I'm not real sure about that.
That's what I was just going to ask. If you turn it on and look at the LED display, it should scroll by with the firmware that it's in there.
All righty.
It'll say O2HN.
O2HN 3.122.
Yeah, that's pretty old. Assuming you have the app, the slotted app on your device, on your phone or tablet or whatever, that's how you.
Yeah, it's probably on my. Yeah, it's probably on my laptop. So
there's no firmware updating through a laptop unless your laptop has Bluetooth Low Energy and can run Android apps.
Okay, so I want to do it from my phone.
Yeah, you can't use the bootloader for the SCP-3. So you pretty much have to use either the Nordic Semiconductor DFU app, which they decided to split off of the NRF Toolbox app. So whenever you see references to NRF Toolbox, ignore that and think Nordic Semiconductor DFU app or the slotted app. Pretty much the only reason you would need to use the DFU app from Nordic is if for some reason the slotted app is not able to communicate with your handle and do the DFU update itself. Is your phone Android or Apple?
It's Android.
Okay. I mean, it shouldn't matter anymore because the Apple version is now can do DFU, but when the firmware in the handle is old enough, which I think yours is prior to the Apple compatible DFU update, you'd have to use the DFU app. But you're Android, so you should be able to fire up the slotted app, connect your handle to it, hit DFU, and put in the latest firmware, and you should be good to go. And hopefully that fixes it.
Okay,
so
let you know.
Yeah, worth a try. And if not, let me know or post on a forum, and either me or Maurizio or somebody else will we'll pitch in.
Okay. Can I do a show and tell as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
All right. Well, so we're at home with my Grand Prix track. This is the one that I developed the Omni slotbox analog digital switch on,
Nice.
and I can demonstrate that.
Absolutely. Go for it.
I have some here. So I guess first, let me show you the unit. Move this camera just a second here.
I watched it on Jim's channel only 2 days ago, so this is a serious deja vu.
Oh,
Nice shirt, by the way.
I was just going to say that, as John
like that,
mentioned, that
yeah.
shirt really is nice.
all right. So let's see if we're looking at what we're supposed to be looking at.
Yep.
All right. So we have two Omni slot boxes here with a 10 amp power supply. And the deal is that with one of these, they come with our, they don't come with beer, but they do come with a modified Carrera CU. The Carrera CU connects via cables to these ports. Your power supply connects there. Your power taps will connect here. Although you can, if you have a small track, you don't even need to use the power taps, as power is fed to the Carrera CU in analog mode with, it's basically 16 gauge wire all the way to the rails. But we do recommend running power taps in addition. Once it's all connected, and we do use, for your analog controllers, we use XLR jacks, but of course you could use an adapter to alligator clips. And then analog or digital, that's it. So this lets you run pretty much anything you want on a Carrera digital track in analog mode using true analog controllers.
So a quick question, when you flip that switch, I noticed the CU turned on. So your modification to the CU includes power to the CU itself, as well
Yes.
as the
Yes, you don't use, right, you would remove the existing Carrera power supply if you're using it.
Okay.
Remove the existing Carrera CU, connect our CU in its place, and connect those to the box. And that's basically it. Now, if you're going to be running high-powered stuff, you should, and many people will already have good power taps, but if you don't, you connect them here.
Yeah. And the reason you have two boxes is so we can see the back and the front of the Omni slot.
Exactly, right. And the two colors. They come in maple or walnut.
Nice.
But yes, that's just so you can see the back and the front.
Yeah.
So I want to demonstrate a little something with the track. So I'll turn the camera around, but if there are more questions here, we'll start with this. We also do supply extension cables should you want to run your controllers further away. We supply a continuity checker because especially if you have the Carrera curved switches, you may well have your two power, your positive rails connected together. And we have instructions on what to do about that. And this is the tool that you would use to confirm that your rails are in fact separated.
Make sure I understand what you're saying a second ago. You only really use one box at a time, right? You're just showing us that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, okay. Just wanted to make sure.
I'm showing two, but just so so I don't have to flip them around front and back.
Okay.
You only use one box.
Got it. Okay.
And what is the voltage? What's the output voltage max on those boxes? Do they support the 124 cars?
Yes, the system that it was developed on has two 20 amp power supplies, one on each lane, which seems adequate for most things anybody would want to run. As far as voltage, we have if we supply the power supply, we have limited it to 18 volts. That's just to prevent over voltage to the Carrera system when it's in digital mode. We know that they will survive more voltage than that, but it's not recommended, and there's really no reason to go there in digital mode. As far as the voltage that the box will accept, you could go to 30, which I can't imagine anybody doing, but you won't hurt it.
So the box itself is capable of
ETN.
passing through up to 30 volts. And what is the maximum amperage the box can pass through?
120.
I don't know. Okay, so a good amount of.
Yeah, there's really, there's no real likelihood of anyone exceeding the amperage capability.
Nice.
Jim, can you use the provided CU unit on a wireless system? Can you use?
Yes. Yes. The when you are in digital mode with this system, all Carrera functions are normal. The only difference is you do have more amperage available to the rails, but as far as the electronics are concerned, controllers and all the accessory systems work as normal with Carrera. So this is a true switch in that it's completely normal Carrera digital and full commercial grade analog.
Yeah.
I mean, you can run Group 12 wing cars. You can run open motors. I can demonstrate those for you now if you want to see it.
I'm sure we'll ask for that in a moment. Does anybody else have any additional questions for Jim?
Yeah, what about if you're running digital, which controllers are you running and where and how? You plug digital controllers into your box?
Yes, when you run digital, you can run any controller that you would normally use with Carrera Digital. So we like the ramjets, but you can use Frankenslot, you can use wireless Carrera, corded Carrera.
And where do they connect?
To the CU.
Normally to the CU.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
the CU is modified, but is completely normal as far as the way you would use it in digital mode.
So if you've got analog controllers plugged into your box and you switch
Right.
across to digital, what happens to those analog controllers?
They just sit there.
They can stay there.
Okay.
On my track, which I can show you, it has 6 ramjet digital controllers connected and 2 analog controllers at the same time. In this case, the digital would connect here as normal.
Yeah. And if you
the
wanted
analog
to,
would connect here.
sure. And if you wanted to use wireless ones, you'd have the dongle connected into the CU the same as normal.
Right.
Okay.
Right. You'd have a
Sounds good.
dongle on the CU or for wireless or to analog, whichever
All right.
wireless system you're using.
And so just to clear up for my own clarification, what we're seeing there in the lower box is the back end of what we see on the top box, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is basically a turnkey solution.
Okay. Yeah, there I get it. Now I
So
get
there's
it.
the other
Okay.
side.
Cool.
So here's your connectors that go to the CU. Here's your power inputs. Now you can put in a single power supply.
Oh no. Is that me? Nope. Sorry, I froze a little bit.
No problem. Or you can connect 2 power supplies so that you have independent voltage control of the 2 lanes.
Very nice, Jim. Very nice indeed.
So
Well done.
to
And
sum
then
it
same
up,
thing with power taps out.
to sum it
All
up,
of the lights
basically-
indicate what in this case, the lights indicate that everything's right. If there's any misconnections, these lights would be red. And these are indicating that right now we're in digital mode.
So to sum it up, basically, this is a turnkey solution for someone who basically wants to just plug something in to their Carrera digital track and be
Yes.
able to physically and easily switch between full, genuine analog control and full, genuine Carrera digital control.
Right. And,
So
and
what
the thing
happens-
that some people miss is it is full analog, which means that you will not be using a digital controller to drive your analog cars.
Exactly. Yeah,
Now,
this
what
is not the
happens-
tech slots version.
Yeah. What
Right.
happens about the common connections that we're on the digital? I mean, because have you've gotten rid of those underneath the CU?
Yes,
right?
it seems that some of the early Carrera switches had a jumper that ran between the two positive rails. It seems that all of the recent ones that only occurs on the switches for the curved switches. But in any case, our recommendation is when you take your existing CU out of a track, if you have a assembled track, you take your CU, your conventional Carrera CU out, and at that point you use a continuity checker to confirm that you do not have your power rails, your number 1 and 3 rails connected. Obviously, in analog mode, the rails need to be independent, but the only place we're seeing that as a problem is on those curved Carrera switches, in which case you take the back off the switch and remove the jumper. You can just leave the jumper out, but really what we recommend is that you remove the jumper that goes from the left side rail to the second, from one slot to the other slot, and instead connect it to the next section downstream, so that you have connection that way as opposed to between the two slots. That's it. And there's a comprehensive owner's manual on the website that details that clearly.
And do you need to tape the lane change flippers into a particular position, or
No,
Well, the lane change switchers will always normally return to straight anytime a car goes through that has a deep enough guide. So I mean, occasionally a shallow guide car might not return them to straight, but normally on a Carrera track, the flippers do always return to straight when a car passes through. So presumably they'll be there, and your analog car will stay on the correct lane. If it does change lanes, it's only going to do it once.
What's your MSRP?
850 complete system.
With power supply and box and modified control unit and controller.
Not power supply. Power supply is an additional, I think we're going 95 on the 10 amp and 55 on the 5 amp.
And be sure to put the link to your website and stuff like that in the chat here on Zoom, and I'll make sure I put it in the description of the video so anybody watching this later can.
Okay, yeah, it's omnislotbox.com, and I'll see if I can figure out how to put that link in.
I'll go ahead and type it in myself. Omni.
Slotbox.com.
Yeah, omnislotbox.com, all one word, obviously.
All right, I put it in there.
Pretty much everything you need to know, including a bunch of demonstration videos and all that are on the site. I would like to do a quick drive demo. Take me just a moment to show you what it does in real world.
Absolutely. Go ahead and reset your camera. David, did you have a question for him?
No, I'm going to follow. I have something to show.
Okay, go ahead and move your camera, Jim.
All right.
Apparently my internet is unstable, so I've turned off my camera. That helps.
What's the idiot proofing on them? I mean, what would tell you you're digital versus analog and it all be safe and not blow each other up?
There's a one large switch on the front of the box. In the middle, it does nothing. And on one side, it says analog in big red letters. And when you, the analog is in green letters. And when you throw the switch, the light above the switch turns green to let you know that you have switched to analog. And when you switch the switch the other way to where it says digital in red, the light turns red. But you can't hurt, these two systems can never communicate to each other through the box.
Yeah. It's a break before make switch with a dead spot in the middle.
Yes. Yeah.
Perfect.
So you can't possibly connect both. All right. Well, anyway, so my favorite old Ruddick controller, and if we run a Pioneer Legend car, and we watch the meters, we'll see that they draw between a half and maybe 3/4 of an amp.
Yeah.
A Carrera 124 car in analog mode battery magnets removed, of course, runs about an amp and a half, which is really all the decoders are designed to use. A popular class around here are the steel chassis Falcon motor cars. They also use about an amp and a half. Of course, they're much faster and easier to drive. Everybody loves Womps. I know they're ugly, they're mutts, but
Fun.
also fun to drive. These draw about 3.5 amps. So they are they draw about 5 times as much power as the digital system is designed for. I love my vintage cars. This one is an MRRC vintage car. The old Scara.
Isn't that an MPC, Jim?
What's that?
I think it's
MPC.
MPC.
MPC, excuse me, correct. Now that is a 6 amp car. That is 8 times as much power as your Scalextric.
I'm waiting for that wing car.
Here's a typical Flexi. Pro Slot 2002. Also fun. And well, I didn't bring it out here, but if you want to see an open wing car, I'll get one and do it later
Okay,
in the house.
of course. Anybody else got any more questions for Jim? All
I
right.
do.
All right, go ahead,
I
Wayne.
do. Jim hasn't demonstrated it tonight, but he can run HO cars on his 124 scale track.
Oh, yeah.
Happen to have
I
one
want to know. I want to know, what does he do with the pickups?
easy. So
Now look at that.
so this is an AFX, and you'll notice this particular one that's in focus has a little bit of braid soldered to the pickups.
Okay.
Just some tiny bit of braid. I think it's actually a soldering wick. And we found that wasn't entirely necessary, but it did improve the performance and prevent the likelihood of stalling. Since we added that braid, we don't have 132 cars stalling on track at all.
HO cars.
They just don't.
But you
And
also,
how do you go in with the width of the rails versus the track width of the car?
Right. Well, the width of the rails works for many of the Scalextric, for many of the HO cars. In this case, the braid is positioned slightly towards the inside of the rails.
Yeah.
Or the pickups, and
I was
that does make
intrigued
it
more
more
by
reliable.
how do your tires work when they come into contact with your rails? Surely they're very close.
Because the Carrera rails are nearly flush and have rounded edges, they work better than they do on a typical HO track where you have a sharp, narrow rail.
Yeah.
So with the magnets out, I feel they run much better and more predictably because they can drift across the rail and back without being upset by a tall, narrow rail.
Yeah. Familiar with all of that. Just not the Carrera surface.
Excuse me?
Personally, I'm familiar with that phenomena where the
Yeah.
where the back inside tire hooks on the rail in a normal HO track. I've just never used or seen or handled a Carrera track.
yeah.
So I wasn't aware of
The
how.
Carrera track, the rails are perhaps not as precise as HO should be in height. You'll find that there's some variation, but generally they are closer to being flush than most HO tracks. They're a mild stainless, so even though they're a huge rail, they don't give you too much magnetic downforce. And because they are rounded edges and smooth on top, the cars drift across the rails nicely.
Yeah, and they're a lot farther apart than for a track like Scalextric track, which is
Right.
So they're
Right.
far enough
They're-
apart for HO cars to actually hit both rails at the same time.
Right. I don't know that this would work with Scalextric
It
as the
wouldn't.
rails
I've tried
are
it.
narrow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you certainly couldn't use the steel pin that some of the HO cars like.
I was gonna say you've changed the pin on that car, haven't you?
This one has the factory bladed pin, so I have not changed it. But on the cars that have the small pin, we put a plastic tube over the pin to make it a little fatter, and that prevents the car from wandering too much in the slot, and it does help. In this case, this car is unmodified except that the rear magnets have been removed, and it has the braid enhancement. But this car, factory out of the box, does run on Carrera.
There you go. Thank you.
Anybody else got any more questions for Jim? All right, hearing none, let's move on.
Yeah, I did have one. What was the voltage set that you just ran all those cars on? What voltage did you just run all those cars on?
All of these cars have been running on the standard Carrera 14.4,
14.4.
the Carrera 132 voltage.
Okay.
The HO car, of course, with the magnets in, is happier at 18 volts. Plenty fast that way.
All right, good stuff. Any additional questions? I'm gonna give you 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, we can always circle back and answer any more questions so long as Jim is here. And of course, go to omnislotbox.com. Link in the description of the video. Currently in chat. If you hit it, you can go right now. And we will now move on to Mr. Grant. You've got your hand
Thanks,
up. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, thank you. This is, just to preface everybody, you know, I'm still new to it. I have no club or wood tracks in my area. So just know that you're talking to a newbie. But there is a proxy that I'm going to try to enter. And it's for DTMs through 1996, which puts in the slotted cars. And this is, let's see, this is my car right here. Let me turn it around. Let's see. So this is the car I'm going to enter. The entries are due in August, and it's a quick slip-on proxy they'll take the cars to 10 locations and run them. And of course, I was very interested in the analog because all the tracks will be analog, and I'm having to practice with a digital chip there. But you know, I've got been listening to you guys for 4 years now, and you know, I got a nice guide on there. I've got raised wheels, and they roll real well. I've got a 9 pinion and a 25 crown gear. The Predator is a prescribed motor in the specs, and you can't, you know, the front wheels are glued and trued as are the front tires, and they're coated. The back tires are the back wheels are trued, but you can't true the tires because it's the they'll slip on the quick slicks. Oh gosh, not urethanes, but
Silicone.
Yeah, silicone. So I've been the specs call out for between 10 and 12 volts for every track. So I've been running, have been running on 12. I might switch to 11. I've been running mostly without a body to get times down and swapping weights around. You know, any comments you guys have on getting ready for a proxy like to that effect, let me know.
Stop testing just the chassis. When you're working with weight tuning,
Yeah.
put the
Yeah.
body back on.
Okay.
Because you're
All
gonna
right.
your weight's gonna need to be
Yeah.
more adjusted. You know.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. I've been letting getting my times when the tires get dirty, because I assume all of these tracks with silicone will get dust as the laps go on. They have the results posted from last year, and they have the build sheets posted, and they're getting 30 laps is about the what they normally see for each track is the winning number roughly. And so I'm assuming they'll have dirty tracks. So I'm putting times down that, after I've run a few laps on the track, and assuming that the tires are dusty, and using that as my times that I'm judging by. And then I've been switching weights around regularly, and staying with about a 40-60. The cars that won last year were all pretty heavy. I think the winner was 96 grams, and the cars that were lesser than that were more down in the were down the charts a little bit. And as I discussed the voltage, I think I'll go with 11 since he prescribes 10 and 12. And
Do you know what kinds of tracks? So at this point,
wooden, plastic, and up to 10 tracks that they'll be running on.
Okay, so a variety of surfaces.
Right.
Okay.
And I'm sure one of them may be a Scalextric. So that was one of my questions. Should I cut the guide down a little bit, or any thoughts on that?
No, the standard, the guide that car came with should run on Scalextric Sport just fine. But if somebody's running I can't imagine that anybody running a Scalextric classic track would even be allowed in a proxy like that as a host. But definitely check to make sure if anybody's running Scalextric Classic, because in that case, yes, you would need to shave the guide down. But they would probably have that in the specs, that the guide cannot be more than a certain number of millimeters.
No, he waved off that. He said, I'm not going to describe that.
Okay, so then all the tracks are okay with the stock guide, which means that the Scalextric track will be sport track.
Okay.
I would not do all your testing with dirty tires, because your silicones clean the track. So even if they start a race with a dirty track, it's going to get cleaned, from all the cars racing on it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would maybe clean your tires and then do a bunch of laps so that you get both a clean tire perspective and a dirty tire perspective. Does anybody else in here run that proxy before, the quick slick slip on proxy, or running it this year with so many tips for David? Any tips in general for David on weight tuning?
I have a general tip. Yeah, there's one general tip, David. If you're going to build a car for a proxy, I mean, I sent cars out to proxies. Really try to make the car indestructible. Really try not to allow it to be flaky in any way, over light. Make sure it can take the hits. I noticed you've got a contrate on the back there that's alloy, and I don't see any collars on there to control the contrate movement. So I think there's a chance that during a proxy that's going to get ripped to pieces. You may just want to bite the bullet and use a brass contrate, or use axle collars and control it so that you're not getting excess wear. So those are the kind of things to look at for a proxy. Try and make your car do the distance. It may not be the quickest, but if you can get to the end, you're going to beat half the field.
Can you explain that again? I didn't quite follow you. I'm sorry.
So I think what Alan is calling the contrate is what we were calling the crown gear.
Yeah.
Or at least, at very least, the metal that's holding the crown gear in place on the motor shaft.
Okay.
And if that's alloy, it'll wear more. Is that right, Alan?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it'll seize up if they don't constantly oil it.
Yeah. So assuming that they're not going to lubricate things for you after you've sent it to them, then the brass contrate on that crown gear will kind of self-lubricate because it's brass, or at very least it won't.
Well,
seize up.
yeah, I've got, it looks like mine's aluminum, so brass would be a good suggestion, huh?
Yeah.
Well,
and
aluminum
then-
is faster, but if you don't oil it, it will seize up.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Who
then
knows
out
if
of
it'll
the
oil
same,
it for you or not?
Well,
It's all
the,
about getting to the end. That's the thing. You know, if you've got
Exactly.
10 or 15 tracks, get to the end. If you're going to use the aluminum one, use axle collars and make sure that you can stop the motor spindle grinding the inside edges of that boss on the crown, and then you'll be fine.
Can
But
you,
that
can you,
takes a lot of setup. And if you have an accident, someone throws it off the track, those kind of setups can go out of whack really quickly, and then you'll tear the crown up and you'll be lost. So, but that's the general thing I'd say about proxies. Build it to last, build it to do the distance.
David, are there any rules for or against using spacers on the axles or axle stoppers on the axles?
spacers are allowed on the axles, yeah.
Yeah, so then use whatever you can to make sure the axle only has that, 0.1 millimeter of slop, like from the little slotted spacer things, and everything else is held in place by spacers so that it can't, even if the set screw came loose, then it would just spin rather than shift side to side. And
Okay.
use some blue Loctite on that set screw when you do your final tightening. And
Okay.
Jim has
when we changed the, I'm sorry.
In the UK, we have a phrase that doesn't really translate well into the new world, but we call it belt and braces. So it's like you want your trousers not to fall down, you wear a belt, and you wear suspenders, as Americans would call them. It's like double everything. So I'd use the brass contract and I would use axle collars or spacers to make sure that everything stays in place. So that's it. Double up everything, make sure everything stays in place, and you'll get to the end of the proxy.
I think Jim has some suggestions for
Let
you
me
too.
show you the spacing on my rear axle. You can probably just so you can see it right there. There's a lot of space there. And the only rule is your tires can't stick out beyond the body from the top, viewed from the top.
Can you use axle collars?
I have not used them before, but I
No,
can sure
by the rules.
Oh, it says spacers are allowed. I assume that counts.
When we
I'll have to check.
when we did this with the Formula One cars at Electric Dreams, when we got that gear out of there and got rid of the gear that has the boss in it, so the gear mesh is not set by the stub of the motor shaft into the gear. It's just a gear, and then you space it with the axle collars. It made a tremendous difference in the way the car handled. So if you can do that, I would definitely do that. My other question is, are you limited to that pod? Can you change the pod?
No, you can change the pod, I think. I think I saw.
Maybe try the 1 millimeter offset pod. That would drop that car significantly in ride height. If you can run the white pod, and then you have to run the hypoid or the, what do they call them, the offset gears for those.
Okay.
Go to that 1 millimeter pod with the offset gears, and you'll drop the car 1 millimeter, and it'll probably make a tremendous difference in the handling. Especially because you can't true the silicone tires.
Well, you can,
And that is going to use steel
specify
rail
the
track.
silicone tires to drop it down. But I mean, it's a 1 millimeter clearance required.
Well, then you either can or can't do that depending on the tire size. But if you can get it right down to the minimum, it will make a big difference in the way the car handles.
That's what I did. They've got those quick slicks coming in 31s through 36s, something like that. And I think I've got the 34 on here right now, and then I'm barely clearing the 1 millimeter.
So if
And are you familiar with the tungsten weights that go in the
Yeah,
pod?
yeah. I've been experimenting with that. Yes. And like I say, the car right now without any weights weighs about 54 grams, something like that. And the heavier cars were higher up on the winning charts from last year than the lighter cars. So I think I'm gonna get it close to at least 90 grams full weight.
And what's the specification for that Predator motor? What's
Pardon?
the RPM rating on that motor, please?
I'm sorry, the
RPMs. Yeah, the spec RPMs on the motor.
22.5.
Okay, so similar to a slotted,
For a
Yeah.
track that's doing 30, how long a duration is it that people are getting 30 laps?
I thought I saw 3 minutes, but I'd have to go back and check that.
that'd be a
10,
pretty
10
short
laps
track.
a minute, 6 seconds a lap then.
Yeah.
So most of the tracks are fairly short. That explains your
Yeah.
925 gear ratio. You want torque, not top speed. So then more weight would be beneficial because
Yeah, but he's got a top speed gear ratio on, not a torque gear ratio.
I always forget which way around it
Yeah,
goes.
go to maybe a 28, back to stock gear.
Yeah, because so with that gear, so 925, right, David?
Yeah, 25, 27. Let's see.
What color is it?
Black.
27.
Slot it black, and I don't see the.
Black
Keith,
is 27.
It might be 27.
It is.
Okay.
So he's
got
on
it.
927, 3 to 1.
Okay, so that's close to stock. But yeah, you're by reducing the crown gear teeth, you are increasing top speed and losing torque.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
And you
if
can
you're
aid the
doing a bunch of-
drivability that way.
if all the tracks are short tracks, you're getting 30 laps in 3 minutes, like Wayne said, 6-second laps.
Yeah.
You're throwing away torque for speed you're not going to get.
Okay.
And especially if you're going to start throwing a bunch of weight in there. Like right now you're at 50 something grams, so you're going to be like, is that including the body or not including the body?
Not including the body.
Okay, so maybe 60 grams including the body. So you're going to be tossing 20 or 30 more grams of weight in there. That means it's going to take more to accelerate and brake. So you want more torque, not less.
Okay.
torque.
He wants the lower gear ratio, I feel, for a car that's getting heavy on a short track.
So if he keeps that 27 tooth crown gear, does he go up in pinion teeth or
Yeah.
down?
Down.
No, don't change the pinion, because the pinions are kind of really problematic with the profile of the teeth. Just go for a larger crown. You know, that's the way
Exactly.
to go.
But we're trying to
Completely
get him.
agreed.
We're trying to get him down close to the track too, right? Is there a crown gear large enough that you need to worry about wheel size and
They're all the same size.
they're all the same diameter? Okay.
No, they're
Not
not.
their crown
actually.
gears.
I think they're larger, but
None of them
The
are too long.
inline crown gear is the one instance in slot car racing where the real profile of the teeth is exactly what it should be. When you get to sidewinders and you get to angle winders, the manufacturers mess around with the spacing of the teeth to make it work. But for the inline crowns or contrates, they're not. They are perfectly profiled. So the size of the gear gets bigger of the crown. I mean, I've got cars that run on a 30, I think even a 31, and even then I'm not touching the ground with them. So
I've got cars that run on a 19.8 millimeter diameter tire with a purple crown, and I think that might be 31. And there's no problem there.
You're right, Alan. I was wrong on that, but I don't think any of the crown gears sit below the chassis, do they?
They do have a slot in the chassis to accommodate that, but I don't
yes,
think they go below it.
he said you can enlarge it if necessary.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd go with
Yeah,
the
I don't think
crown
the slotted crowns go below the chassis.
Yeah, I got a purple one here. Again, it doesn't say the number of teeth, but it is a little larger. And as long as I keep my 1 millimeter clearance, I can go as large as I want to, I suppose.
is that the one you're looking at? 30?
No. Then
What,
it's purple.
what number is the purple, Alan?
Yeah, it's a purple over there to the left.
That is a 29.
Is it?
Yeah.
So what's 30 and 31? Is that the red is 30?
There is no 31. No.
Okay. So what's the red? 30?
30, 29, 28, 27, 26, 25, 24, 23.
3. Wow.
Alan, what book is that?
That's
This
the product
is
catalog, right? Yeah.
It's like a catalog. I mean, Maurizio is giving these away almost. If you ask nicely, you'll get these for free at the Slot Car Festival in Gaydon this year. So
Are they
it was good to
online?
have. And I like these things, and they're a good I know, I'm an online kind of person, but I do like these. I've had 2 or 3 of these. This is an older version, and there's lots of good detail in here. You can stick it in your pit box. It's got all the things. It's got little tables about which gears fit, but it's very, very slotted orientated. It's not generic slot car orientated, but it's still a very useful resource.
And I don't think it's been a while since I looked, but I've not been able to find the PDF version of that. You can find all kinds of PDF and catalog, but there's nothing that has all of that information in one place.
It's on the
like that.
website. It's on the slot.it website.
Go ahead and post a link to what we're talking about in the chat for us, Garth. We'll take a look at it.
It's on there. I'm not sure if it's a PDF form, but it's on there.
It is a PDF form.
That catalog used to be an A4 fold out that it folded down in 4 times, and that was the whole catalog.
Yeah.
While we're on the subject of those gears, can I ask a question based on what we're talking about? Has anybody tried the modular slotted gear?
No. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've only got half of them.
Well, the reason I ask is the upcoming race at Electric Dreams, we cannot use axle stoppers. So we're stuck with what we got, but I'm thinking that modular crown gear may work pretty well based on the fact that we can't use axle stoppers. But I've got no experience with it. And that might be something for his proxy too. If he can run the modular gear, it's an aluminum gear, but with steel spacers, so you don't have the issue with it breaking, but it's lighter.
Yeah, but more parts, more little grub screws, more separate pieces come to pieces.
Well, it all locks together with one set screw, just like a regular gear.
Yeah, it's just one screw.
So what holds the gear on the boss then?
There's a secondary boss that goes over it that holds it's got that same aluminum looking gear, but there's 2 steel plates, and the steel plates, when you oil them, can then rotate in opposite directions where a gear with nothing else can't. And in theory, it should work good, but I've never tried it. I just wondered if, and it might be good for that proxy because you could go with aluminum gear.
Have you got a picture of that? Because that makes no sense whatsoever.
It's on that same slotted, on the slotted website where that PDF is.
It must have a
what makes no sense about it, Nick, is
Alan, it's in your book if you have that.
It's an odd thing because it's a solution where there's no problem if you know how to set up a real crown.
But you can't with the rules that we're running. You can't.
Yeah, that's peculiar.
I've got one here.
Solve the problem.
All right, show us what you got, Mike.
That's the way it comes. It's got a hole in it. And then the boss goes over the top of it. And it comes with 2 spacers of different thicknesses. Actually, no, they look like the same thickness. Pardon me, 3 of them.
Can you stick them on an axle?
Yeah. Well, I could stick it on the crown gear, but let me measure the, yeah, it's less than 200 millimeter for each one, and you stack them according to it. The problem is I've never tried them because I've never gotten the other piece. I've struggled to find it.
So
The piece that actually retains it. I didn't realize it when I bought it, but you can see, yeah, those fit on the axle.
Okay.
And can you see the hole in it? And then there's a collar that goes over the top of it that retains it. And the set screw retains the center of it. So there might be a little slop in that between the grub screw and the gear itself, which might retain it. Let me see.
I think the gear is in a sandwich situation.
There it is.
Yeah.
And so you put the gear on, there's a steel spacer that goes on one side of the shaft and then the other side of the shaft, and then the collar locks them together. So now you've got 2 plates turning against each other that allow them that's, I mean, hopefully that makes it easier to understand. And the collar you have to buy separately. You buy the gear and you buy the collar because they make two different collars.
I've never gotten the collar.
Yeah, you can't, it won't work without the collar. Pendle slot has the collars. I've been looking into this a lot because of the Electric Dreams race. Pendle slot has the collars. Nobody else I've found does.
I don't understand the need for that. That's an overcomplicated solution to a problem that doesn't exist.
Well, the problem does exist
So
because you get a lot of wear on that gear with the motor shaft sticking into it. And this theoretically reduces, if not eliminates, that problem because those spacers can turn in the opposite direction.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing is that when most people see that, they assume that those spacers are going to be locked and then rotating the same way the crown gear does. But what they're doing is basically being a bearing surface for the shaft of the motor, and each of them can spin whichever way they need to based on what side of the shaft of the motor they're turning on, and they are loose on that system. So the only thing holding them in place is the things on the side.
In theory, it's less friction and greater durability.
Yeah, because on top of it, they're hardened steel. They're not bronze or aluminum.
Yep.
Yeah, but
So basically what they are axle stoppers.
No, there's
No,
they're washers.
Oh, the collar is basically an axle stopper, but
Yeah.
it's a bigger diameter than the axle. So it's probably a 3 millimeter or a 3.5 millimeter hole in that thing.
3.85.
It's the two spacers that do the good work here.
Yeah.
So without those, it's just a regular crown gear. But
Exactly.
with those, it basically turns, instead of the motor shaft hitting two sides of a thing that's, spinning in only one direction, those things can each spin in whichever direction they need to spin when the motor shaft hits it, when it's moving. And then you can move them, just a hair's width apart rather than, a visible distance apart on a regular crown gear.
So are they trying to create a limited slip diff then?
No, it's nothing to do with
No.
The drive is solid.
I think that's one
Drive
good
is
way of
up.
thinking about how it's working, though. If you know how a limited slip diff works, yeah.
It's actually a pretty good idea. It's a very good idea. I mean, if you consider that in a normal configuration of a crown gear, say in a slotted pod, okay, when the crown gear is on the side that it's on right-hand corners, when the axle shifts and the motor shaft connects or touches one of those walls, on right-hand corners, the motor shaft and the gear are spinning in opposite directions. So by having a free rotating bushing or collar on there, it eliminates an awful lot of wear. And most of the time when you see guys with brass dust and stuff like that sitting in the back of the motor pod, that's not from the pinion gear, it's from the wall of a bronze crown gear.
Have you tried them, Chris?
I haven't. I don't use them. I use spacers between either side of the crown gear and the inside of the bushings. It does make sense. It's a good idea. It's a finicky way to set it up, but I typically cut. Our rules allow us. I can cut the motor shaft and use spacers to center the crown.
Well, that's a much better and correct way to do it, but the rules for this race don't allow that.
Right. I mean, this is, it will offer more performance, but the biggest thing it will offer is increased durability of the crown gears.
Guess I'll have to buy some and find out.
Yeah.
So Mike, is the boss with the crown gear on it aluminium?
Yeah.
Yes.
So in that case, then we're running a steel shim against an aluminium surface.
Correct.
So
The
in
only
that
thing I can
case, then,
see-
I can add something, and that would be that if you double the number of shims in there and put two either side of the motor axle, then you will have an increased likelihood of steel against steel, as opposed to steel against aluminium. And if you put lubrication in there, you've got many, many more slip surfaces, which will reduce it will increase the likelihood of the shim actually spinning instead of just rubbing against the shaft, the motor.
Correct.
Because
You get
it
three-
could
you
just
get-
not spin.
You get 3 shims with it, and the instructions say you can put 3 in depending on the spacing. There may not be room to put 4, or put 2 on each side.
And we found that with thrust bearings with balls in, if we stacked thrust balls with a plate between them, we would get a reduction in the stall torque. You know what I mean? The stiction. Have you ever
Yeah.
phrase stiction? It's usually a phrase that's used in relation to shock absorbers and how much force it takes to get one to start to move.
Right. Well, you
And
should-
stiction could occur and stop one of those shims from spinning on that aluminium boss. But if you put more shims in there, you've got more surfaces that can slip
Right.
against one another and therefore more likely to slip.
Yeah, been fairly common. Anytime you have a rotating surface spinning against a non-rotating surface, if you use a couple of spacers, they act as thrust washers and reduce the friction. Any high-end slot car will use 2 spacers as opposed to 1 for that very reason. So you just use 2 thinner ones as opposed to a thick one.
Yeah.
The only problem I can see with using only 2 is that you could have the spacers cock a little bit and stick on the axle.
Yeah.
But you still have the non-wear probable, not unproblem.
Yeah, yeah. There's tons of washers around you can use. Like tons of people make 5 thou, 7 thou guide washers. So depending on the inside bore of those washers that come with that crown, you can find some very, very thin, highly machined washers to substitute in if you'd wish.
Yeah, I'm
Problem
sort
with
of with
that
Nick
is-
on this. I'm sort of with Nick on this. I think that this is a solution looking for a problem. And if I'm looking for example, one of the clubs I race at, you are not allowed to lubricate the crown with anything fluid. Because we race on urethanes, we do not want oil on the track. So you're not allowed to lubricate it. And we use aluminium crowns and we use axle stoppers to stop it moving around. And it's not just the motor spindle against a stationary, it's a motor spindle against a counter rotating boss face that you really have to get in there and make sure that there is just enough of a gap so that that doesn't happen. Now, if you're in a situation where the rules say you cannot use axle collars, the idea that you would have to use this multi-part crown to get around that is crazy. But if you can use axle collars, that's a much better solution than using this kind of.
Oh, absolutely. This particular race doesn't allow it.
Right.
The problem you also have with the thinner the spacer, if you're saying, oh, all right, a 7 thou spacer, whatever, I can put 2 of those in there, but you're not allowed to lubricate it. Sooner or later, that's going to create heat. So it's going to create friction.
Well,
so
we are allowed to lubricate it.
You're correct.
Everything in the object.
Yeah, you're correct, but by having a spinning surface or 2 spinning surfaces with 2 washers, you're going to reduce the heat and friction considerably versus a motor shaft against a surface without a bearing.
Yeah, it's also a much larger surface area if you've got the shims spinning against the aluminium boss, then there's a much larger surface area. So the wear.
Oh yeah, the heat will dissipate. Absolutely,
Exactly.
heat will dissipate, but only to a point. It depends how long your heat's are. It depends how long the race is.
Who had the picture of it a minute ago? Can someone put that back up?
Yeah, I did.
I think that was Jim. Kev points out that Slotted specified that this modular crown is designed for use with offset motor mounts only, not
No, they have both of them. They have the crown gears in both standard and offset.
in modular form.
Yes,
Oh, okay, interesting.
there's the picture.
Thank you, Jim.
So again, I asked the question: what holds the crown gear to the boss?
There in the boss, there's a hole, and the set screw goes through the boss into the through the boss, through the gear shaft into the axle. So there's a hole in both of these.
The
One of
gear
them
is
is not
molded
threaded.
onto the boss the same way as it
That's
always
the
is.
answer I think I was looking for, Dennis. What holds the gear on? What holds the dark amber red
You
on the
screw
yellow?
you screw the
Pressure.
set
No.
screw.
He's asking what holds the gear to the boss, not what holds the boss to the
No,
axle.
that's what I'm answering though. There's a, can you see my cursor?
Yep.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's not
Okay.
what he's asking. He's asking what holds the gear to the boss that's inside the gear. And that is, it's a regular molding operation, the same as all the other gears.
Wait,
It's only the
oh, you're
boss
talking about
that's
this part here?
different.
Yep.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
That's right, Jim.
I don't know.
So it's a
But
But
different
if
one of
that's
those.
the case, you're
Yeah.
gaining nothing. If
So
it's
it's a
the
different
same
one of
bonding
those.
process,
It's a
the gear-
standard, it's a standard splined.
Yeah, if the gear is bonded to the boss in
Yeah.
exactly the same way, you're
Yes.
gaining absolutely nothing.
You are, because what all that you're trying to gain in this whole deal is the friction, is to get rid of the friction between the pinion, between the motor shaft and the sides of the groove in the gear.
Right.
That's all that it's got to do. That's the
Right.
only thing that it does.
And it does that. Whether it's in practice, does it make a big difference? We don't know. Because obviously, I guess none of us have tried it, but
Yeah,
that's the theory.
I'm gonna try and get Marco to get some of those
The
collars.
the big bonus here is that it's made of aluminium and not made of brass.
Correct.
Yeah, so it's lighter,
Yeah, it's the
but
weight.
whether the ultimate weight is less, we don't know.
It might not be because there's more components and it looks like that collar has got some girth to it too.
And
Well,
your
Steel washers.
steel
It's
washer.
still aluminum. The collar is still aluminum, so you're gonna have the weight.
It's all gonna
loss
be
of the
lighter than the
aluminum.
bronze version. I'm telling you that
Right.
right
By
now.
about half.
Yeah.
Dennis, does
So
he
we
have the
a
collars in
task for
stock?
next week then to get one of these things and weigh the components? And
Yeah, we
compare
don't
it
have
to
the
original
electric
aluminium?
Dreams doesn't have the retaining collars at the moment, so I'm going to try and get Marco to get some. There are two different sizes, and the reason for that is because you would need two different ones for whether you're running a 5.5 millimeter pinion or a 6 millimeter pinion.
Yeah, we need the 5.5s.
Yeah,
They make
the
a
5.5s are
dry.
the inlines, aren't they?
They make a
Five-
dry
the 5.5s
PTFE
are in
lubricant.
line.
You could put on those, and it's heat resistant up to like 600 degrees. Whoever said you can oil your stuff whenever you can use like a dry lubricant, the day before.
That's an idea.
What about Lockheed's graphite?
I mean,
Um,
I guess if you wanna-
I don't know how temperature resistant that is, but
I guess the
PTFE
idea is-
lube is temperature resistant.
Yeah,
whatever it is needs to be run a bit to make sure anything that's going to flings off, and that graphite will fling. You put too much graphite on that thing, it'll fling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I was
Yeah.
just thinking soak those two little washers the night before in PTFE and it should be good to go.
But is graphite allowed within the rules?
But back to David's original question about proxies, right? He's setting up a proxy car,
Yeah.
relying on lubrication to get you through 15, 20 races in a proxy on the other side of the world or race. It's not a viable way
yeah,
to
I
go.
would not use that
Agreed.
solution for a proxy race, that's for sure.
So for a proxy, the modular crown would be a good thing when you can't use spacers, but spacers and axle stoppers is the ideal solution.
Yeah, and I think that other way is just a little too complex for a.
Well, the modular crown came up from Jim's upcoming race, not from the requirements of David and David's proxy, I think.
I think they mix together a little bit. We're trying to find the best solution for a proxy, and also Jim wanted something that works for within the rules of the race he's going to.
The one thing that worries me about all of that is that you're relying on this one little M2 set screw to hold the whole damn thing together. I mean, it's bad enough already when you have a solid gear and you're just locking that onto the axle. But now you're trying to do all of this other stuff. It worries me a little, especially the quality of the set screws that you get. You'd probably need to be changing them out right away for something for aftermarket that's a little stronger.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. The slop and the set screw against the crown gear itself might be a significant factor as far as wear goes.
Yeah, a little bit of back and forward that you're going to get in there.
Right.
Because I'll bet you that hole is bigger than set screw so that you can adjust the side to side clearance a little bit.
Right.
Sure.
Good point, Dennis. Good point.
Dennis,
Yeah.
Greg, excuse me. Greg, the laps are more like 14 is max, and they range from 3 to 14 laps on the 10 different tracks. And so I misled you on that, and the cars run for 3 minutes. So did that change your opinion of the crown number of teeth in it?
Yeah, a little bit. They sound like.
But it depends, because we don't know how long those races are. Normally, the proxies will state that the cars have to run at least 9 minutes, which means on a 3-lane track you'd be running 3-minute heats. On a 4-lane track, you might be running only 2-minute heats. I don't know.
Yeah.
It says each car will be run 3 minutes.
3 minutes total
3 minutes per lane.
per lane.
That per lane.
Okay.
Yeah, generally.
And did you say that some cars are only doing 3 laps in 3 minutes?
Some of them 0. I guess what does that mean?
It probably means it broke.
Yeah, it must mean it broke. The 3 laps in 3 minutes is a ridiculously long lap, which is not a slot car track.
Yeah.
So you can take 3 as a relevant. I would say with a gear ratio, just go for something in the middle of the road that's handleable, that's going to work on a short track just as well as it works on a long track. It's be optimal for neither, but it'll work at most places most of the time.
Yeah, but
And you'll
even
be more reliable using a bronze Boston and aluminium one. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we all agree on that.
Hold on. What did you say was the most laps?
14.
In 3 minutes.
Yes. Well,
That's a huge track. That is a huge track.
Yeah.
Because we were doing 3-minute races last night at Allen's on one of his commercial tracks, and we were getting 17, 18, 19 laps with Revos, which is not any faster than what you got.
Yeah, at Rockingham, if you do it, we do 3-minute rounds at Rockingham. That's a 117-foot track, and you do 18, 20 laps.
Yeah. So that's not.
I may be misleading you guys because all I see is this chart.
Yeah, that's good. What I would do is go to last year's Proxy and see if you can get some pictures of the tracks that it raced on, because those hosts are probably going to be hosting again this year, and get your eyes on it and see, if you see a whole bunch of really long big tracks, then yeah, top speed might be beneficial. But if you see a bunch of garage tracks and small club tracks, then
torque's more important.
Torque's more important. Yeah.
What proxy is this for, David?
It's called the Quick Slicks Slip-On Proxy.
Okay. Yep.
That's run on short tracks. I mean, are you sure you're not looking at the points that were
It's possible.
allocated rather than the number of laps that were done?
Yeah, that
very possible. Yes.
And what motors are you running in the
Predator 22.5?
They allow several different motors. The Piranha 21.5 is allowed.
Okay.
All right. The slotted is allowed. There's several motors.
Keep in mind you really need to pick a gear ratio that also suits the motor. I mean, you just can't pick motors and gear ratios independently of each other. So if you're slightly numerically under 3-to-1 with the Piranha 21.5, like 2.8 to 3.1, you'll be just fine.
Yeah.
Because that motor has a lot of torque.
Well, yeah, but I mean, no matter what the motor is, you've electric motors like to spin. So you have to gear any electric motor so that it actually spins. When it's not spinning, when it's lugging, it heats up and does a whole bunch of bad things. So and at the end of the day, in these proxies, the difference between a 2.8 and a 3.1 motors is the last bit of worry for short track proxies. It's the handling of the car. So
the main thing, you want to make it handleable for the drivers. You want to make it easily.
Well, yeah, like any slot, like proxy, like slot car builders, there's some good and some bad, and that applies to slot car drivers as well. So you really need to pick a car that the medium driver can handle. So again, anywhere from 2.8 to 3.1, David, and you'll be absolutely fine.
And And I would stick with a shorter gear ratio, meaning 3.1 rather than 2.8, because it's going to make the car easier to drive for more people.
Yep. Yeah,
Let's
you're
see,
getting a little bit, yeah, the higher numeric ratios will give you a little bit better braking and a little bit acceleration. And that motor at 3.1, anywhere around that motor is extremely drivable. It's a nice motor.
Well, I have the
And in
Piranha.
3 minutes, I don't think in 3 minutes, you're gonna build up enough heat to bother that.
Yeah.
Correct.
I've got the Piranha too. Is it got more torque than the Predator?
They're all basically, they're so close. Manufacturer's numbers are completely misleading. And then the other thing to remember is when you order motors from Sun or Mabuchi or wherever you do, and they all order from the same factories, they state emphatically right up front that there's a plus or minus 10% variation in the motors.
So it's more units.
Let's go ahead and table this for now. I want to get a few more people in on the recording, but David, absolutely hang around for the after show because I'm sure you guys will be talking about this for quite a lot longer.
I appreciate y'all so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for our experts, chipping in. Let's move to our next person with a hand up. Mike, you've got your hand up. I don't know if it was for something earlier, or if you want to do a show and tell. What you got?
Well, I actually have the new wheels that you sent me.
Oh, yeah. Were they not total garbage?
No, they weren't actually. I have not fitted them yet. I haven't had a chance. You can see this is a 10.5 millimeter wide. What is it? 17. Where's my?
For those out there,
the
these are
barrel
the
size.
These are basically the air wheel
13.5, and the overall is 15.5. So these are the smaller wheels rather than the ones I showed earlier that were 17. So I have two widths. You can see the two widths there, and these are air wheels of a sort. I had to cut the portion on the outside here to the barrel off to make it work.
Yeah.
There was a separation in the main barrel section of it, but it came off okay, and I just was filing them. I have to put the inserts on them in order to true them yet and make sure that they're round. But I have those, and I also have the other ones that Garth sent, which are the McLaren style 18 spoke.
Yep.
You can see there. Now these I haven't tried either, so but they're here, and I managed to make it all work. Here's one that still has the barrel portion of it left on it. I haven't cut it off yet.
Have you
but I just have to.
Have you done any of the inserts into any of them yet?
No, I have not.
Okay. That's my main concern. Do you when you do the inserts yourself, do you ream it? You ream the hole out with a reamer?
Well, I don't have a reamer, so
Okay.
that's problematic.
Yeah, pound them in.
So I may be doing it by hand, but I have numbered drills.
Okay.
So I may try that and see what happens, because I've got enough possibilities to be able to manage that. So
Buy a
we'll see how it
reamer,
goes.
Michael.
Pardon me?
Buy a reamer.
Okay.
Hey, Michael, hold one of those up to the screen and squeeze the back of the wheel, the flexible end. It does then. It does change. Oh, no, that's the stiff end. That's got the spokes in.
Yeah, squeeze the other end.
Oh.
Turn it around.
Well,
yeah.
I can't appreciably squeeze it. I can't not feel there's a bit. Yeah, there's a bit of flex in it.
Yeah, more than aluminium.
Well, duh.
Yeah. Yes, there will be.
Yeah, but Greg, if the shape was such, then it would be nearly as stiff as aluminium, you know?
It's still plastic.
Well, yeah, it's still plastic. You could remedy that probably by moving the center spokes to the middle of it a little bit more for a more positive offset.
Yeah.
But the idea is to make these as light as possible. And Garth likes the Garth is the designer on this, likes to leave the spokes on the intersection of it. So I don't know if that will affect it at all.
It will. The main reason for the spokes being all the way to one face like that is for printing.
Mhm.
And if the spokes were printed in midair, then I mean they would probably need to be supported properly, but they would probably need to be, at least they would need to be thicker in order to have the same strength as if they start on a hard flat surface and then are built up from there. Because
Okay.
those first few layers of it printing, even over a support, aren't going to be as strong as printing on the print surface. So they'd need to be bulked up at least, half a millimeter.
Well, truthfully, on the McLaren ones, if you want to make them look like the original, the original ones are on the outside with the kind of, for instance, the sideways model shows with the insert, the cosmetic insert on the outside, but it looks basically like this right to the very edge of the inside. So you could, flip it around and make that the inside.
That's true. Yep.
So, and drill a hole in the center of it to make the hole for the grub screw. So
Let us
anyway,
know how those work.
I will.
I was not
probably
super
not for about 3 weeks because I'm heading to Wisconsin next Sunday for the historic races in Road America. So I'll be out of commission for a couple weeks.
We'll take lots
If anybody lives near there and wants to come join me, I'll be at turn 5 up on the hill. So watching the historic real cars.
Have you been there before?
Well, I'm from Wisconsin originally, so that was my home track when I was growing up.
It's an awesome
And-
track. Yeah.
Oh yeah, oh, I love it. I've driven it. It's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful and pretty friggin' scary if you're driving. Let me tell you, it's really interesting. So,
You
All right,
need another magnet on your car.
well, Porsches don't come with magnets except in the sensors.
All right, thanks for sharing that, Mike, and hopefully those wheels work out. Mr. Petrucci, you are our next. What would you like to show, Tony?
Just a quick show and tell. These arrived this morning.
Very nice.
It's a new Avant slot 635.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Nice
Nice.
car.
nice.
Knee Spirit.
It was Spirit, and the Spirit ones were horrible.
The
Mechanical.
124,
No, 132nd.
132.
wait a second, okay.
That's a very pretty car.
Nice.
Oh, shit.
Careful.
Go ahead and put the first one down, Tony.
I've got 2 of them.
Of course. One for driving, one for showing.
Well, no, both for driving. These.
Oh, okay.
I'll get a friend come round and wants to well, the race go. This both for 2 cars. But I found out early on today they do a number 1 and a number 2, and I got 2 number 2s.
Whoops.
It's nice. It's better than the Spirit one anyway.
Oh, yeah.
It looks a lot better. I haven't tried it out yet, but
Probably goes a lot better, too.
there we go.
All right.
Just a quick one there.
Thanks, Tony. And Mr. Longhurst,
You can always make that a 12, Tony.
yeah,
Sorry?
draw a little 1 in front of the 2, so you have a 2 and a 12.
No, I'll buy now. I'll buy the number 1s.
All right, go ahead, Paul.
Right, first one is I've been playing with one of these. I don't know if you can see that. That's the old.
308.
Oh, nice.
That's the X in, but it's it ain't X in underneath.
Hey, did you print that chassis yourself?
Yeah, of course I did.
Of course you did.
Not.
So you eventually printed something, on your printer.
Now we're
Yeah,
teaching.
that's the best chassis I've ever printed. Look, look at that chassis. That's pucker. But
The only thing
no,
he
it-
printed was his name on the bottom of
Yeah,
the
that's it. Yeah.
credit card slip, right?
sorry.
So who made
The
that?
only
chassis?
thing you printed was your name on the credit card slip.
Yeah. Shh.
Gonna share the file.
Yeah, I'll figure out how to do that.
So who made that chassis?
Angelo Amato.
Oh, yep. That's what I was asking. Who was the designer? Cool.
Yeah, it weren't me. But that's that one. You've already seen this. I'm teasing you now. It's still waiting for the decals to come.
Nice. That's much better than my version. What are you going to put Sunoco on it?
Yeah, it's
That's the
everything's
SRC,
Sunoco, isn't it?
SRC Toyota.
Yeah, that is an SRC Toyota. I've got the fin at the back. It's weird because it's all in like it's in two sections. And then you've got those stupid bits in the I don't know if you can see the stupid bits in the
together,
middle.
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
but it's so much flex. But I had to buy the proper body. But then I thought, sod the body, we get a decent chassis underneath it. And that's the SRC chassis. That is
Who made that car?
SRC.
SRC, okay.
And it's got suspension on the side. So you got suspension there, suspension on the back, and a big boss there that allows it to all pivot. And it goes like a scolded cat. Absolutely beautiful, that is.
Is that on wood tracks, Paul?
Yes. Yeah. Well, mine's wood track anyway, so yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Suspension works real nice on plastic tracks. I'm sure that car.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the Ferrari's got suspension in the back of that as well. I put suspension in the back of it because I got enough clearance, and that was upsetting a few people at East Devon. That's all my cars do is upset them. That's
Your
what I
cars go too well, Paul. You're pissing them off.
Yeah. And that's it. That is the quickest show and tell I've done. But I'm waiting for the decals from Patos because I couldn't find any other nice Sunoco decals. I've tried. There was some person in America I was buying them off of, but they started to break up as you cut into them. So I've gone and tried Patos Sunoco. Was it 513 Ferrari?
512.
512 Ferrari decals. So, and that should have the nice big Sunoco one for the rear wing. So, fingers crossed. I'll let you know how it gets on.
Well, you'll have to show and tell it, of course.
Okay, you got 50 minutes left, Paul.
Did you see? I know you like the pictures of all the. So what I'll do is I'll dig them out again, and there's about 20 of them now because there's 2 more new ones. I'm going to have to take another photograph of all the Sunoco cars on that corner. Greg's already seen it.
Yes,
Greg,
you will. a new picture. Every time you add a car to that group, take a new picture of the group.
Yeah. Well, I finally got the Coup de Luna. You know, the Fly Coup de Luna?
Yeah.
The Sunoco version of that. I finally got one of those. So that's another one off the list.
Cool.
So,
all right, good stuff. Thanks for sharing, Paul. And
that's all right.
Anybody else want to do a show and tell before we move on? Dewan, you got some, or you want to do your topic?
My topic.
Anybody got any club corner they want to do before we do Dewan's topic? Jim? I don't see Big Den on here, so we might not have any club corner. Well, we can always swing back to club corner. Go ahead, Dewan.
Okay, basically I had hit Greg up with a question about what do people do with their storage of their cars? And hopefully, did my screen share show up?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, great. So we all know that the majority of our cars come into these with these the jewel crystal cases and everything, and there are different manufacturers and different sizes and different, just a whole array of these things. They're useful. I find them quite useful with the information that typically comes with a lot of them, especially the details and the history behind some of the original cars on the track and things like that. So holding on to these things are nice, quote unquote. But by the same token, storage and the taking them in and out of the cases and things like that become really cumbersome. And so I had hit Frank up about a week or so ago. Frank so he's not on the call. I don't know if he's on call right now. About coming up with some the types of cases that you can store the cars in and things like that. He had some nice ones that he his is wood and this one's all acrylic, but basically it's the same concept where you can store the cars individually like that, and whether the people the preference of what people get out of having the cars individually stored in these little I guess consistent cases, and what do you do with the original cases and things like that. So it was like an open poll question that I was posing to Greg to present to the group on what do you guys do, what do you prefer, and why.
I'll get my answer out of the way real quick. It didn't take long for me to discover that those jewel cases take up way too much space. So basically all of my cars, and I have no shelf queens, so I had no reason to keep the case pretty much, other than to help me remember what the car was. But most of the cars, have some kind of labeling, or I just Google it and find the identical car, and then I know what car it is. So basically all my cars come out of the case, they go into the cheesy plastic, Tupperware drawer things that you get from various department store supermarket places like Fred Meyer and stuff like that. And then all the jewel cases, I basically said, does anybody want them? And I ended up giving a whole bunch of them to Alan, because sometimes he'll get, cars with busted cases, and he'll, swap them out for not busted cases and stuff like that. Otherwise they go in the garbage because they just take up way too much space. If I ever sell a car, it's going to be a used car anyways, and people buying used cars generally don't care too much about the case. So that's me. Next.
And me.
And you, Mike?
Yep.
It's with me too.
That's where mine going.
Let me spotlight you here.
I don't know if you can see. I had a cabinet maker make all my pit boxes.
Oh, good.
So you
So
start
they will go in there, or the good old Chinese takeaway tubs.
Beautiful.
Especially when you're
All
working
the
on
cases binned. They
Yeah.
They went ages ago.
Well, I guess I'm the only one who uses the cases for mold boxes.
Yep.
So you've repurposed them.
I use them for parts.
Yeah, I mean, I know guys who keep the jewel cases, and so like your other picture with just giant stacks of jewel cased cars, but they just take up so much more space. So if your collection gets anything bigger than Garth's, you're gonna have stacks and stacks of jewel cases that take up too much space. And like you said, taking them out of the dang jewel cases every time you want to run them and putting them back in when you're done. No, thank you.
Well, although Dewan makes a really a valid point about different manufacturers having different sizes for their jewel boxes. Like the monograms aren't so bad. The Carreras look like they're almost ready to house people. They're so darn big.
Right. So you basically have to make stacks of identical brand jewel cases to stack them at all. Is that your place, Chris?
Yes, I had a local acrylic maker make all these cases. They're hinged, so the door just pulls open and closes. And I've got 12 of these scattered around the room. So again, with you, jewel cases, I don't think they look all that great. They take up a whole bunch of room and, blah, blah, blah.
Do they sit flat on the shelves?
No, I had the guys, I don't have a picture of one. I had the guys make up some small acrylic blocks with a slot cut in them with sections for the tires to come out. So each car sits on about a 3/16 base underneath, with the tires just slightly off the track. So I can take the individual bases out and hold the car by the base. And I had them make a whole bunch for 32nd and a whole bunch for 24 scale cars. So
That's what I used the True Speed ones on mine because I had to buy a bigger one for mine. So it went from little hitboxes to that, which is like I don't know if you can see that properly. It's like a big pigeonhole.
Reflections.
I've got something that I can add to this too.
We need to teach you how to share something, buddy. We need to spend some time on that. Maybe.
Can I share
that
screen?
Holds about 400-500 cars, that thing.
Wow. Yeah, go ahead, Dennis.
Yeah,
all right, let me share screen. So this is in my garage, and behind that flag is this.
Yep.
And so this is a wooden frame that I built with aluminum drawers that or aluminum shelves that slide out that a friend of mine made for me. And each one of those manages to hold about 25 to 27 cars. Let me just see. I've got some pictures. There you go. So that's what they look like, each one, right? They've got some little bits of rubber across underneath, so the cars are sitting without their guides or their wheels touching. And so each shelf is like that.
Can you go back to the Cox NASCAR chassis again?
We're talking about storage right now, Chris. We'll get back to the
Well, I want to know where he stores that.
No, he doesn't. I'm afraid that's stored in some friend of mine's place in Connecticut, and it was not a Cox chassis. It was a Dennis copy of the Cox.
Oh, okay.
It's a knockoff.
It was a knockoff, yeah.
Cloner.
But I think the part of the problem, are you trying to just store them to keep them, or are you trying to store them and kind of display them as to people that walk by?
Yeah, what's your use case?
What's the goal?
Yeah.
It's mostly for storage and easy access to, and I'm creating group cars. So I'll have like 4 of just about everything because I'm running all 4-laner stuff. So
if I had the wall space, I would totally do one of those nice acrylic display things so that I had, all of them just on this, because I'd love to show them off. I just don't have the wall space for it.
I would go to IKEA and grab one of the Billy bookcases, and then on the first shelf would be like, your group C, but then print out a poster in the background of like group C and information and data and put all your group C cars on that shelf. And then the next shelf, maybe Indy cars, and then the Indy history or whatever, if you were trying to be cool and fancy.
Any local acrylics guy, you can take in whatever size and shape and dimensions you want, and they'll knock those out for you, not that expensively.
Yeah, these are running about $180 for that. It can support 24 cars per. And it has the opening door, just like yours was described.
I mean, if you're going to have a lot of them, like those things, that's a reasonable price for just one of them. But if you're gonna want like 5 or 10 of them, yeah. If you're gonna want a lot of those display things, then going to the acrylic place like Chris said, because the big money is in the setup of doing it. Right. And then once they can do multiples, then each one becomes successively less expensive per unit.
You go on in Las Vegas, they can add neon for you.
Actually, or if you could figure out how to use some old Revell track.
I think
I got plenty of that.
Well, the good thing about the acrylic places is there'll always be some offcut. And with the offcut, they can, cut that into little 3x4 pieces or whatever, and just quickly cut a slot into it. So you got little base plates for your car, which are really cool as well.
Yeah, I'll look into that. Yeah, definitely look into that. Especially, like I said, it'll take about 18 to 20 of these to house what I currently have already. So,
Yeah, so you'd be best coming up with a design or finding a design and taking it to a
floor
place.
To ceiling. Go floor to ceiling and along the wall.
There you go, yeah. Yeah, so
Big
definitely.
sign saying "Do not touch" unless you like your fingers straight.
Yeah, well, it'd be like a three-dimensional poster.
Yeah.
Or three-dimensional wallpaper for the number of cars he's got. So yeah, definitely find a design or design your own and take it to an acrylics place. There's going to be a dozen acrylics places in spitting distance of where you are. So yeah.
What's an acrylics place? Is that like a sign manufacturing place or
Yeah,
something?
I mean, you could just search plastics manufacturing or plastics supply and pretty much any, like there's a place that for my wood track routing tool parts, there's a place that I found that does a good, good pricing structure. And I basically just call them up and say, hey, I need another sheet of this cut up into what I need.
Isn't that what Luff does? Luff, you're an acrylics person, aren't you?
That's what he used to do, and that's what I took over from him for this particular product. Yeah, but yeah.
In Dallas, there's some retail supply companies that do that. They make fixtures for stores, but you can go in and order a shelf and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And that's basically what these companies do is provide that kind of thing to any number of businesses and individuals. And you are an individual, you can call them up and have them do your custom design. The more complicated it is, the more expensive it is per unit until you get up into lots and lots. Fortunately, all I need to have done is a sheet cut into a bunch of strips of a particular width.
Right.
Easy lemon squeezy.
Luff is retired.
Luff is retired, exactly.
I keep mine in a drawer on their side.
Yeah, and that's what mine are mostly on their side, or yeah.
It's always the shoemaker's son that goes barefoot, isn't it?
Well, you put them on your side to protect the wheels.
Yeah.
Protect the tires from getting flat spots. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great idea. I have all these drawers under my racetrack. I hadn't thought about doing that. I've been putting them up on pegs, but it's a great, easy way idea to do. Thanks, Luff.
All right. Anybody else got any suggestions for Dewan? What do you do with your cars that nobody else does? I guess not.
Hide them from the wife.
Hide them from the wife. Yeah. No, I've had that one for ages.
Yeah.
There's one in my drawers.
Okay.
Oh, let me
let's see that, Luff. Yeah, let's see that.
Oh, he's getting got some like fancy dividers too.
Yeah. That's cool.
So now that you're retired, Luff, who made the acrylic dividers for you then?
Oh, he did those long ago, didn't you?
But it's
being creative, I'm just imagining a mosaic wall covered in magnets, and all you do is stick the motors on the magnets, and that holds the car flush to the wall.
There you go.
I was thinking exactly that idea. That's a great idea.
Just make sure they're thick enough to keep the tires
Yeah,
off.
thick enough to keep the tires off the wall.
Stick them up against the wall.
And then when you go to take it off the wall, half the wall comes away with you.
Well, that's why I thought of using Revell track. You put the Revell track on the wall. And the magnet.
Yeah. But then you'd have to have magnets in the cars or a bunch of magnets behind the track. Yeah, you can probably go to Amazon and get like 20 millimeter by 5 millimeter diameter thickness round neodymium magnets. Packs of 20 and 50 for 30 or 40 bucks, and then just shoe glue those things to the wall and stick your cars right there.
And depending on the size of your collection, you could throw the earth right off its axis.
You could draw pictures with the cars. You could do a car-shaped car stuck to the wall magnet display thing.
Just make sure you've got your magnet stuck to the wall the right way.
I have several approaches. I can take you guys on a little tour.
Here, Mike's showing off his magnets. Yeah, let me.
Mike, that looks like a modern art sculpture. You could probably get a grant for that.
See, Chris, he's been taking the magnets out.
These are just the ones I took out.
Yeah.
I still have about 40 magnet cars.
All right, let's see what Jim's got. What do you got there,
Okay,
Jim?
well, we have the plastic case. These are cars for this specific track. So when people come over, they can choose the car of their choice to run on the rally track. So
is that one of
those are
Bill's
dedicated to that.
Is that
And
one
then,
of Bill's? Hey, hold on, Jim. Hold on, Jim. I gotta stop you right there, buddy.
Why?
Is that one of Bill's tracks?
Yes. Yeah, I bought and sold, I think, 3 of Bill's tracks, but this one I kept.
You can't just skim by one of Bill's tracks like that.
Well, I want to cover everything in one meeting. This is the first time I've been here in a while, guys.
Yeah, well, I mean,
we can get back to that.
All right, give us at
talking
least one
storage
close.
now, right?
Give us at least one close up of some interesting scenic item on that track.
Okay,
Pick
all
your
right.
favorite.
Well, Bill had no people on his track, and I like homies. So here we have homie dad, homie mom, and the nerdy kids. And of course, he's upset about popular sister with all her dumb friends on the outside turn trying to get themselves killed. So that's what he's about.
All right. Yeah, we'll definitely need a better show and tell on that track. I remember seeing the build thread on that track, and
Yeah.
nice to see this game.
It needed some. I tuned it up and added quite a bit to it, and I still love it. It's one of our favorites. So
All
anyway,
right.
storage for a particular track located at the particular track. Also, I like to display slot cars with paintings or art specific to the car.
Cool.
So I have little plexi shelves and pictures that match the car. Then this little unit came from Michael's Art Supply, and it works wonderfully for 132, 124 cars. So that's our house cars for guests. There's some more of the display specific, but let's.
Yeah, I like those historical displays that you got going there. That's really cool.
Yeah, I like to.
Just go back. Did I see some blue and yellow there? Look at that.
Look, you're satisfying 2 of the most popular liveries. You got Gulf and Sunoco right there. Oh my God.
Yeah,
just trying to-
I love the
just
painting.
move the Gulf one out
The
of the way.
Ferrari that's in
Another
the painting is
Sunoco one
also
there.
here. But
Very nice.
yeah. So anyway, so that's storage out here, but let's go to the inside.
That was your dedicated slot hovel right there. That was your man
Yeah,
cave.
that's the slot car barn out there.
Nice.
Then we have some glass cases made in Mexico, more of the plastic cases. But, and then, for parts, these guys from lots of places.
You guys are just way too organized. Sorry,
Trace
there's
the
something
ballpark.
wrong here.
And then, of course, you got to have the real slot car boxes for when you go to the real slot car track, right? And these are for different, different classes and different setups.
John Kidd, he uses the Dewey Decimal System.
But then, different eras.
So the one thing I haven't seen so far is a whole bunch of jewel cases stacked on top of each other. Oh wait, there they are.
No. Well, I have a story about that. Then we do have the cardboard trays and the tray and the display box carrying case I made when I was in high school in the 70s. And then we have the drag car specific box.
You don't do enough Jim needs to expand his slot racing horizons. He doesn't do enough kinds of slot.
Right. Well, and then here's some of the projects coming up.
Wow, thank you, Jim. I don't feel so badly because you have more cortex than I do.
We have the 60s indie box there. But wait a minute. Then we have filing cabinets.
The weird part about this is he still has a
Filing
wife.
cabinets with trays.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think my wife's gonna go for any of this.
You're still married?
And then there's these.
Oh no, those are jewel cases.
Oh no.
Okay.
These are. Let me find one that. Well.
Oh my God.
Right, I want to jump my wife how far behind I am.
It's revelation of.
The fun thing about this video is you can save it, and then when your wife complains about your slot car purchases, just show
So
her
you think I'm
what
bad?
could
Yeah, look
happen.
at this guy.
Look at this guy! Jesus Christ!
This guy's an
These are
average collector.
decals.
Oh, is that
I can
all?
say from experience.
No, no, there's
nothing
another
helps.
box of
Of
decals.
course not. That's not all.
You haven't by any chance got any of the auto weld decals in there, have you? The 132nd?
Oh, gosh, yes, hundreds of them.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's just a matter
I'm
of finding them. But
I'm using up all my dad's supply.
But anyway, these boxes are interesting because they are arranged in trays.
Oh my goodness.
Jesus. I thought I had a problem.
Hey Garth, you got somebody else to give a hard time now.
Well,
Leave
they're
Mike
like-
alone.
They're 6 deep. Then we
All
go
I can
to
say,
the-
all I can say is
the
thank you.
workroom where we have the shelving.
Michael, you have a new goal.
All
There
right.
you go. Squad goals.
This
No,
box
not
is just
anymore.
wheels,
Not
Just
anymore. One,
wheels and
one a
tires.
month
Wheels.
is the max.
right?
Oh, my God.
Now, these are just gears.
Now, Jim, do you want me to edit this out of the?
You must have a
Is there
very
anything at your house that's
understanding
not slot
wife.
car related?
Hold
You
on,
gotta remember
oh,
that he did
Greg,
run a
doesn't it,
commercial.
doesn't it depend on the state if this can be
Which
used
still
as
does
evidence in a court of law?
That's not a slot car? Is it a slot car?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
It's
our
got built-in
mascot.
noise making.
It's RC control.
So what Abby does your wife
You
have
tell them
then?
that it's okay for me to have slot cars.
Oh, he's confirming. Oh my goodness.
He wants me to verify that it's okay for him to have slot cars.
Yeah.
See, this
He's a
is
keeper.
the ultimate
He's a
slot car
keeper.
thing is having a wife like Susan.
Yeah. She's a keeper.
Oh,
I took my
these
wife
are more
into
projects coming up.
all of those are, hold on, all of those, Jim, are projects?
Yeah, let's see.
Okay, hold on. Can I just say, bless you, my son, because I feel so good about me right now.
Well, there are some, here's old controllers. Some bodies. Yeah, they'll all eventually become slot cars, I think.
Wow.
That looks like, that was a BZ chassis there, wasn't it?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
It's a replica.
So anyway, that covers most of it.
Are you sure? Are you sure you didn't miss something?
Well,
Is there anything else at your house that's not slot car related? Oh my
well,
God.
there's the library, of course.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
We just did the slot car version of American Pickers.
It's still going.
Yeah.
Or a version of Hoarders, maybe, perhaps. Slot car Hoarders.
No. This is too neat. It's not hoarders. No.
It's too
It's too
organized.
orderly for that.
Does he have a good alarm system? Because I'm flying over tomorrow. I think I need 2 lorries though to empty it.
Well,
that's another good point, because anybody who want to steal it would be so old they couldn't get in.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's the one good thing about living in Arkansas. Nobody out here gives a shit about slot cars. So,
Where in Arkansas are you?
just east of Little Rock in a town called Sherwood. It's very nice, but there's just not very much slot car activity. So y'all are welcome. Come on out.
Just beware of somebody named Clinton knocking on the door asking for some spare wheels.
Probably have them in stock.
He wouldn't be asking for spare wheels.
All right. I'm gonna.
And regarding
about to go into-
the jewelry cases, I did buy a collection of 1,500 slot cars where the owner had taken them out of the case, put synthetic tires on, test drove them, put them in those cardboard containers like this, and then stored all of the cases separately. And it would have been nice to acquire both, but it required a whole nother truck to move the cases. And I couldn't imagine how I would ever match up 1,500 cars with 1,500 cases without a football field to lay everything out on.
First world problems.
So 1,500 cases went in the dumpster.
Yeah, first world problems.
Is there another room there you're not showing us that has a Blue King in it?
I do have one, yes.
It's in
Yeah, I
storage.
have a girding Daytona also, but not here.
All right. Yeah, I'm overloaded, so I'm gonna stop.
Yeah, let's stop there. We'll get to other stuff later.
All right, episode.
I just want to go back to those decals.
We'll let you guys wheel and deal after
drop me a message. I'll find them for you.
Yeah, after we stop the recording, you guys can do some wheeling and dealing. We've got just under 10 minutes left. Is anybody you cannot follow that, but go ahead and try. I don't know. Do you got any questions? Do we need to circle back to Jim's Omni slotbox stuff? Jesus Christ, Jim, this is like the Jim Cunningham episode.
Yeah, we didn't see
I didn't want to take things over. So we never
did see that wing card, Jim. You're going to have to go grab that wing card and go put it on your track.
I heard him testing it, but I didn't see it.
All right, here we go. Let me spotlight you again. All right, put it on the track.
All right. Well, I have to deal with
you. Hold it. You're a big boy. You can hold it and race at the same time.
Yeah. All right. Can you see the track?
Yep.
Yep.
Oh my God. How many amps is that pulling? How many amps is that pulling, Jim? You can't hear me over the screaming of the car.
Group 7 wing car.
How many amps was that pulling?
About 12.
Jesus.
Well, Jim, did you own a shop or something?
Yeah, I did. For about 13 years, I owned Nomad Raceways in San Diego.
Oh, well, now we know.
At one point, we had 7 tracks in the facility, mostly Carrera-based tracks. I do own some commercial tracks, but I rarely use them. I was racing at Buena Park. I didn't feel like we needed another commercial raceway nearby, so I focused on plastic tracks. Initially, we tried every brand, and eventually threw them all out except Carrera. I had Skeletric guys come in wanting to buy extensions for their existing track, and I had it in stock. But when they tried the Carrera track, 3 out of 4 times they'd leave with a Carrera system. So we stayed with that. And but I've been at this since 1964, and I'm one of those weird guys that takes care of my toys. So I have my first slot car and most of them since. And I like to keep them in running order and run them. So I developed this track so I can do that. Run everything.
I'm thinking a museum at some time.
It's already there. You need to just start.
Museum at some time.
You need to start charging admission for museum visitors.
Well, yeah, it's free if I can get some visitors. Like I say, the biggest problem I have here is not enough people to share with. I do miss that in Southern California. So I have started a club, and we did have 14 people attend last weekend.
That's what we see that.
But
that's more than we get in Southern California.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, well, but usually it's been 6 or 7, and I like to have, because we like to run 6. Typically we run 3 races. We give everybody 10 laps on the rally track. Then we do a digital race on this with 6 drivers, which means you really want 8 people. So you have 6 drivers plus 2 marshals. And then we run an analog race on the same track, or several, depending on who brought what cars. But yeah, we had 14, and typically we have 5, 6. I'd like to keep it above 12.
What's the name of your club?
Central Arkansas Slot Racers.
Do you have a Facebook page or anything?
Yes, Facebook and Meetup. I keep a calendar on Meetup. I was hoping that Meetup would help introduce us to more non-slot racers just looking for something to do, you know?
Have you tried next door?
I'm on next door, but I haven't had any real response to that. The problem is people next door think entertainment means drinking and shooting at things. That's what people next door do for entertainment. If they're not killing something, they're not happy. So.
All right. Well,
Maybe you just have to maybe you have to show them a controller and ask them what it's for. You never know; it might work.
It's a
It's got a trigger. It's got a trigger on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Therefore, it's fun.
Yeah, could be.
Dewan, did you have a question?
No.
Okay, I saw you flash up there. Mike, did you still have something, or did I forget to undo?
Yes,
Okay,
you
go
did
ahead.
forget me. While I was here, I took that, I took the drill bits that I have and reamed out a regular collar to show you how that fits on that gear.
You got 2 spacers on there? Or?
I have 3 spacers on there.
Okay, so the question now is
Pull it back a little bit so it focuses.
Yeah. Now the real question is, what does that look like on an axle with a pinion and a motor?
Well, okay.
What size collar?
Just a regular axle collar. I just drilled it out. You know, took the number drills and gradually drilled it out slowly. And it's a pretty good fit. I can say there's maybe a thousandth or 2 play in that, in the set screw in the hole that's originally provided. So I guess I would put blue Loctite in there to sort of pull things up. But, you know, I'm sure you have a collar, Jim, if you want to get the gears only.
Well, maybe
it almost seems like if there were a second hole in that collar, you'd have some adjustment for the gear lash.
You do. I think.
Well, no, not really, because the set screw here goes through the
an unthreaded hole.
Yeah.
But if the set screw didn't go through the collar, a second one, you could then adjust the width of the gap, right?
Yeah, you could, but you can also do that with the spacers.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can use the 5,000 spacers that are that come with it, or get more,
right,
and use those to set the gear lash.
Yeah, and more spacers is probably better. Yep.
Maybe to Dennis's concern too, we could use a generic collar that has a 440 set screw in it, and then ream out the hole in the gear.
Yep. That's what I'm going to be trying for sure.
Yeah.
Well, it works. And it looks like
it's you that ordered all the gears. Yeah, I've been talking to Marco while we've been on the thing saying, hey, we better get some of those collars. And he said, oh, somebody's bought a whole bunch of gears.
I told Joachim about it yesterday. Did he already buy them all?
Well, somebody did, yeah, that's for sure.
Rick just bought them all. Gotta have spares and different things to try, right? All right, well, we're down to 2 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and hit the stop record button, but as always, we will continue chatting and talking about various things that we've already talked about, answering questions that you're going to miss out on. So you should come to a live chat and stay late and see how long these guys hang around, because sometimes it's a long time.
Well, it's all about the after party.
It's all about the after party. I'm already done with my drink. Let's party. All right.
After seeing Jim's collection, I didn't want to put this up when, and not to impugn his integrity or anything like that. This is strictly meant for fun.
No, wait on, I haven't hit the stop button yet. Are you sure you want this recorded?
Oh, did you hit the stop button?
No, I haven't.
Oh, I'll hold off then.
Okay, so until next week, everybody, bye.